Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Forthright Open Roleplay. And specifically today I'm going to be talking about a number of the different dials that are within the guide section. So Forthright Open Roleplay, it deals with, so it has a guide, which is a game master, and it has a protagonist, which is the player character. And so one of the things they break out into is social strata. And so it was really quite interesting within the game, just that they actually categorized all the different social stratas. And you had sovereign, high, middle, low, and outcast. And I thought this was a really interesting aspect. It's a really, I think this is really fascinating because with tabletop role-playing games, what you really have is you have a lot of ontology, which is naming. So it's applying names to certain bands of our existence, you know, things that we deal with on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, just aspects of our being. And within tabletop role-playing games, these are codified essentially, you know, and it's really valuable within tabletop role-playing games to have these codified because, like here, you know, the difference between a sovereign, they're saying, hey, what if you are the absolute leader of the people? And I think it's really cool too because Forthright Open Roleplay is setting up a band of functionality to allow you to play as a king. And actually that's not new. That happened all the way back in Dungeons & Dragons with Birthright. But, you know, Birthright was a really rich, robust, unique campaign setting. Within Dungeons & Dragons, it's really played very, very infrequently. It's a real sleeper. I actually love that campaign setting. But here, you know, they're saying, hey, that's just one of the things you can do with Forthright Open Roleplay, which I thought was really cool. But also, you know, this whole ontology thing. So in addition to these within the game, being able to, so when you codified something, when you've given it a name, right, you can attach rule sets to it, and you can give progression, right? So within this game, you know, you could show somebody going from outcast to low social strata. I thought that was really interesting. It was a really interesting aspect of that was within the Forthright Open Role-Playing game. And it was very strong. It was well done. I was impressed. So basically, one of the other things they had within the game was NPC takeover. So NPC takeover was really, really interesting. I like this idea a lot. So basically, they have a mechanic within, and I actually have never seen this in any other game. It's really unique. Now, it definitely could be in another game, but I've never seen this before, and I've read a lot of tabletop role-playing games. So let's say you're, you have a bog standard, mage, fighter, rogue, cleric team, high fantasy setting, and there's a bard who's introduced, and the bard is like a young woman who's a ginger and red hair. I think some people consider that term negative. Maybe, I don't know. All right, so a red-haired young woman who's a bard, right? And that person comes in, she helps with an adventure, then she rides off into the sunset, but the player characters are like, but the protagonists, the players, are saying, hey, we really like that character. She comes back in again, there's another successful adventure, and one of the players says, you know, I really like this character. Within Forthright Open Roleplay, there's actually a mechanic for them to lay their current player character down and actually take up a non-player character as a protagonist. I've never seen that done. It's really, really unique. Very cool aspect of the game. So one of the things in Forthright Open Roleplay. So Forthright Open Roleplay, when it comes to your character doing things, there's really three there's three ways to do all of your actions, your protagonist actions. Within Forthright Open Roleplay, or the vast majority of them, are going to fall into three buckets. Fight, talk, skill, okay? So you actually have advantages, bonuses to fighting, to talking, and to doing skills, right? So one of the things that's really interesting here that I thought was pretty fascinating was, so you have this fight, talk, skill thing, but the game, it looked like the game would not have attributes. But the game actually does have attributes. That they call attributes, which it is a little confusing, but I just wanted to call it out. So it was really interesting. The attributes for a protagonist within Forthright open roleplay games are fuel, locomotion, respiration, rest, senses, social position, and strength, right? And you're like, what? Like, it's really odd. And it's kind of strange that it's in there because it's super not clear how this long list of really unusual attributes actually are useful if you're using fight, skill, talk. It wasn't clear to me. It's possible to be clear to other people, but it was interesting, and I'm not sure why they went down that road. Adding attribute. One of the great things. By the way, so fight, talk, skill. It's classic new indie tabletop role-playing game procedure of carefully crafted compression of complexity, right? So you're taking, and so basically Dungeons & Dragons has a lot of unnecessary complexity. You have 6 attributes. Those 6 attributes all have a score that really don't matter because you're going to get a bonus, which is derivative of those scores, right? So why not just, reduce those 6 attributes down to 3 attributes? Why not get rid of the score and deal just with the bonus, right? And so that's really what you're dealing with fight, talk, skill. It's a way of compressing complexity, right? So basically, once you've done that, if you compress complexity, it's strange to add it back in with this strange list of attributes that don't seem to really fit anywhere. It was a little odd. So, okay. One other thing that the game had. So one other thing that specifically Forthright Open Roleplay offers is minions. There's a fantastic section within the game for minions for protagonists, right? Now, I thought this was really good. I'm really curious how it's going to act in play because actually, so one of the things I thought was great is I think very, very few games really deal with explaining how to deal with minions of player characters or protagonists. And most games are terrified to touch it, and that's one of the reasons why it's so wonky. So I was delighted to see it here in this game, right? That there's actually a section for, here's my minion, this is what this minion does, and a pretty robust system for dealing with those minions. The only, I think I figured this out already. One of the things I realized is, I'm like, wait, the reason no other role-playing game in the world allows protagonists to have minions, or if they do, why it's shoved off in a corner of the book and it's really, it's like almost like a dark area that no game master would normally go, is action economy. So basically any game, almost any normal tabletop role-playing game, action economy is a major deal, right? So if so everybody at the table gets one turn, and you're going to throw a fireball, or you're going to heal somebody, or you're going to cut somebody in half with a sword, or you're going to backstab somebody, right? But if you have a minion, you get an extra action, right? And that minion could logically do anything that anybody else at the table. So minions for protagonists are really Pandora's boxes, right? So I was wondering, I was like, why did Forthright Open Roleplay open this Pandora's box for its players? Well, we go back to one thing I talked about again. One of the strangest things in Forthright Open Roleplay, and actually, now that I think about it, it's not a terrible problem in Forthright Open Roleplay because Forthright Open Roleplay has a distinct section that talks just about what to do with house rules. So it says, hey, more house rules the merrier. Jump on in, make whatever house rules you want. I don't think that's a great idea in tabletop role-playing games, but it actually works out to the benefit of Forthright Open Roleplay. And the reason why is one of the wonkiest things in Forthright Open Roleplay, and I think it is one thing that you need to house rule immediately, is your protagonist, your player character, only dies when you and the game master decide that they die. This is an absolutely terrible idea in any tabletop role-playing game, and including Forthright Open Roleplay. And I think it's the first thing that has to go. Now, the reason why I would say that is, Forthright Open Roleplay has an incredible combat system. It has a really awesome, very well-constructed combat system that allows you to, reduce luck through harm, use fight, talk, and skill. It has this, this win. It has this setback, exchange, win, boon, difficulty check. It is a fully formed, awesome set of combat rules that do not matter in the least. You can just sweep them aside because they don't matter if you die whenever you choose to die. It's one of those. It absolutely has to be house ruled like immediately, like, because otherwise you're kind of like, well, what's the point of all this elegant, well-crafted combat rule systems if it doesn't matter and I'm going to die whenever I want, right? It's really, really odd. So that needs to get taken care of. And I think that's one of the reasons why they felt free to add in minions into this game. And the reason why is minions break action economy majorly, right? But in the game, one of the things I will say is you die when you choose to die. That is 100% chosen and crafted, and like it's put in the game with forethought by the designers. And the reason why is there's actually a section where they say there are no fair fights in Forthright open roleplay. This is all constructed so that the players are going to win, right? And so, so they knew what they were doing when they put this in there. I think it's the first thing that has to be house ruled. And to their credit, they put in, hey, whatever you like, don't like, house rule it, right? So, it's kind of interesting. But I love the idea of having the ability to have minions in the game. And almost every game that I run, player characters do start with minions right away. It happens really frequently, right? So I do want to talk a little bit also about personas. So within this game, there are a ton of social dials, right? So personas are these aspects that can be mapped to your protagonist, and they're really cool. There's agent, mingler, networker, orator, and socializer. And these are really, they're fantastic. They're really excellent. They're really well done. Agent is great. So, like you can be an agent of the town watch, or you could be an agent of a guild, right? And so, and I love the idea too that you could put agent for multiple factions onto a protagonist within the game. It's really, really good. The other thing I wanted to talk about with Forthright Open Roleplay is the fact that it does not present a clear world. I thought this was absolutely awesome. It's one of the best parts of the game. So one, I think Forthright Open Roleplay game in this one choice surpasses the Monty Cook game, Cypher, okay? Cypher is a beautiful universal tabletop role-playing game system. It can be used to run anything. It's incredibly powerful, it's efficient, it's good, right? But one of the things that the way it came about was Cypher was created after Numenera. So Cypher is an unbelievably awesome rule system. Numenera, I found to be a very strange world. It really never clicked for me. It happens billions of years in the future. It's not clear if it's fantasy or science fiction. It really plays in both spaces. I think it was a strong choice, but it was a choice that never really clicked for me personally. And so it's interesting because I feel like Monty Cook did it backwards. He created a world, attached an amazing rule system to it, and then broke that system off and offered it as Cypher, right? I think that the Forthright Open Roleplay team has done it correctly, and what they are choosing to do is they have a specific world, right? And they have a specific rule set, and now that Forthright Open Roleplay rule set is out there, they can use it to create any world they want, which I think is a really interesting aspect for Forthright Open Roleplay. And so I think this is the way that all games should do it. You should build, and there's another thing too. I've actually I've attempted to create a tabletop role-playing game, and it is incredibly difficult. And one of the things I found is it's incredibly hard to build a world at the same time you're building a rule set, right? And so I love this idea of build your rule set, get that right, and then apply that to a world. It reduces complexity in design. Now, there is one guy out there in the tabletop role-playing game scene who has done both and mastered both at the same time, and that is John Harper, Blades in the Dark. If you're not playing Blades in the Dark, you should absolutely check out Blades in the Dark. That's one of the best games on the market right now. In my opinion, it's definitely one of the best games released within 2017. And that game does an amazing job of blending rules that are actually incredibly world specific. That is, in my opinion, that is definitely the deep end of the pool for tabletop role-playing and design. And I think there are a ton of people who attempt it and don't succeed. But that is an example where someone attempted it and fully succeeded. But Forthright Open Roleplay is really a unique game. The universal role-playing system aspect of it is just so powerful because it positions it as a game that you can play. You can play any world, any character, any setting. You can do it quickly. It makes sense. It's logical. It has the dials you need to get that done, and it's free. Like, so, it's just really awesome game. So that's just some of my thoughts on some of the aspects within Forthright Open Roleplay. Take care.